Tom, you would do the invocation?
Heavenly Father, we thank you that you brought us all here together in good health, and we ask that you watch over us and give us wisdom and patience with one another, and that we were able to make good decisions, and that we be filled with love for each other. Lord, we ask these things in your son's name. Amen.
Hey,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I protect the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
any comments from the public? No. Consider an act on any adjustments to or for relief from specific charges imposed by the district? None. That's great. Okay, so we have the consent agendas next, items 1 through 10. Anybody want to pull anything out? Talk about it? Can I have a motion to pass the consent agenda?
A motion, we pass the consent agenda.
Get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Hey, back up. Maureen, did we get a check from the SJRA for the excess funds, 2025 excess funds?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you know if it was approved?
It was approved, March board meeting, and they said take 30 to 45 days to process.
Okay. I saw two different figures in the agenda. One was for 1.225 million, and the other one was for 1.414 million for MUD 46.
Where'd you see those numbers at?
On the SJRA agenda. One was on the agenda and the other one was on the appendix to the agenda.
Let us check.
Okay.
Did we have the trustee packet? I was looking.
It was in the trustees packet in February,
Okay,
and
I
I
don't have
believe
that.
maybe March as well.
Okay, March?
Yeah.
I got
March is
April.
when, actually, I think y'all approved it in February ahead of it being final. So February's trustees number, that's the number that's official.
So if and when we do get it, Maureen, where on the financial statement would you put that?
I believe the last one went to other revenue, so the 4,900 up top.
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
Was that a decrease in the water payment to the, I mean, yeah, they took less by much for the water payment
They did that the first time.
first time?
Yeah, last year, the year before, it was actual checks. Yeah.
Yes.
It'll be that way
Lump
this
sum.
time, I'm understanding.
I'm sorry?
It's actual payments, not.
It'll be a payment just like last year. Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, let's go to regular agenda, item number 11, SRA Woodlands Division report.
All right, well, our report begins on page 20 in your packet, runs through page 55. You'll have the GRP and Woodlands monthly operations report, as well as the 6-month project update in there. Then also on pages 66 through 68, you will have the Bear Branch monthly operations report and project update as well. But I don't have anything to add. Be happy to answer any questions if you have.
I do have a question. On page 21, you have the water production graph. Is that a combination of the GRP and the woodland? Or both?
In the middle of the page,
Yeah.
that is strictly woodlands, but it includes surface water. So it's groundwater, surface water just for the woodlands.
Water and service. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. you.
I have a question. Not related to what we talked about today. You guys had a pipe break in the GRP, north, out in the Conroe area, north of Conroe.
Right.
Um, did the X-ray lay that pipe, or was it an old pipe? What was that pipe laid when we built the water system?
It was I'm assuming you're talking about the one that broke 2 weeks ago or so, or the one that
No, I
broke.
think it was 2 months ago. Looked like it went down a gully.
So we had one that broke in August of last year, finished up the repair in September. That was on the east side of White Oak Creek. That was done HDPE. That was done during the design or construction of the transmission line. So that was done around 2013 timeframe by a contractor. Now, happenstance, Eric will hear about this Monday. The west side of the creek has the same pipe. So it's roughly 40 foot from the other break. It broke again on the other side. And what it looks like is basically that line goes from a foot deep to 21 foot deep, then goes back up to probably 5 foot deep. And so it's the bend in the pipe is what it looks like caused it to break.
It looks like rough terrain.
It is. It's, yeah, one side's very rough, the other side's very swampy. So that line's actually going to be recommended to be redesigned and reinstalled.
Question on page 34 concerning the town center water line renewal project.
Mhm.
On the last sentence of the second paragraph, it states, "And it's important to note that easements will be required for the project, although funding for them has not yet been secured."
Right.
Does this mean that you need to pay to get onto the easement?
It does. We're actually going to acquire the easements, so we need to buy easements, both permanent and temporary.
How do you price that out? I know that a lot of them are owned by the development corporation. Do they just,
The three ones.
We're assuming they're all going to be free, and we're hoping they're free, and that's the vast majority of them. The ones that are on the private side are based off of surveys and appraisals.
concerning the water plant 1, 2, and 3 on page 37?
Mhm.
Last sentence. That generator, 1,000 kilowatts equals 1 megawatt.
Yes.
I know it's just, it's, forgive me,
Engineer versus electrician.
yeah, forgive me, I'm anal sometimes. And then lastly, on page 41, on the wastewater treatment facility number 1,
Mhm.
the land acquisition, was that abandoned?
It was.
Okay,
But it's still shown in here since this is going up past the last 6 months. And so this will be the last time this was in here. And you'll see lift station 5 coming in on the next 6-month update.
okay. That cured in place pipe. Do you know what the minimum size pipe? It's on page 43. Do you know what the minimum size pipe you can put that poly?
I know the MUDs have done some CIPP on smaller lines. I don't personally know how small CIPP will go.
You can do 6 inch. I don't know, I haven't heard of anybody doing it on 4 inch.
Okay.
Like
I'm curious if you do it once and 10 years down the line, it breaks again, for
whatever reason.
whatever reason, can you do it again? Inside of that?
You'd have to look at the flow, the rates, because each time you do that, you lose inside diameter of the pipe.
Correct.
So
But you just increase the
I've never,
pressure.
I personally have not seen it done twice in the same pipe. Done a lot of miles of that over the years, but I don't think I've ever seen it done twice on the same pipe. I don't think you'd do that. I also never seen one that's been cured break either, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen that over the last, 10 years.
Just an observation, Chris.
Mhm.
Last, I guess, 6 months, you updated and I guess improved the presentation of these projects, and it's really gotten better month after month. So keep up the great work. It's good.
Thank you. And just to note, a lot of this data comes from working with Woodlands Water and stuff they'd like to see and based off y'all's comments. So mutual thanks.
2 more questions. On page 51, you have the surface water usage and you have the woodlands. I was just curious if MUD 386 was part of that other, or whether it was part of the woodland.
It's part of the woodlands. So the woodlands includes 11 muds, 10 under woodlands water, 1 standalone.
And then the last question I have is, did we get a financial report for the woodlands division?
No, very good point. So accounting has, or our board has delayed all financials going to the board to be 1 month behind. And so we don't have March financials at this time. And so when you're going to get March financials in May. And so just going forward, all the financials are going to be delayed 1 month.
That's all I have.
Anything else? Okay, so let's go to item 12. Consider an act on supplemental agreement with the SRA, issuance of bonds, connection with tier 1 water lines.
I've got a couple of things and then I'll hand it to Brian. So the first thing, if you'll go turn to page 65 in your packet. Last month, there were several questions posed to us about when will certain things happen? And one of the questions was, when did you expect to have the supplemental agreement approved? And our original thought was, we got it to you in January. Hopefully we could get it approved in March. But we also heard in March that it might be best to stall or defer consideration of that until after the new directors were seated. And so this schedule is based on after the new directors are seated and we've had a chance to brief them about the project so that they understand what all of this is about. So with that in mind, the idea is the MUDs approve the supplemental agreement either June or July of 2026. Board of Directors of the River Authority approves in July of 26. Board of Directors approves preparation of offering documents and requests for proposals for underwriting. That's July of 26. They'd be working with Adam to prepare the official statements that are actually put out for the bond buyers to bid on. The bond sale would occur September 2026. Bond closing funding becomes available in October of 26. Keep in mind, we can't do engineering, we can't do easement acquisition until funds are in the bank. And so the first thing out of the chute would be to advertise for engineering of the Woodlands Parkway project in October 26. After the bond closing and after the funds are available. Town Center Waterline easement acquisition will begin November 26, go through July 26. Just a refresher, we think that is about $3.5 million. Town Center Waterline engineering design completion should occur in December of 26. New rates would go into effect January of 27 that account for the bonds that are sold and the debt service that has to be paid on that. Preliminary engineering for Woodlands Parkway Waterline renewal would start February of 27 and go through January of 28. Advertised for construction of Town Center Waterline would be July of 27, with the SRA board approving a construction contract and giving the contractor a notice to proceed in October of 27. Town Center Waterline renewal construction would take about 18 months. And so November 27 to April 29. And then final engineering for Woodlands Parkway would begin about February of 2028 and go through January 29. Construction of Woodlands Parkway Waterline would probably start around June of 29 and go for basically go to January of 31. So takes a little while to go through all of this. There might be one way that we can advance the easements, but that would mean taking money out of the R&R fund to start the easement work and then reimbursing the R&R fund for the money spent so that the projects in the R&R fund are not delayed. So this kind of sets the stage for what we're trying to get accomplished to be able to move the waterline projects forward. Any questions on this? So let's go. You should have 2 emails. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Fire away.
who decide whether or not you're going to draw funds from cash out or buy bonds or just do it from the R and R funds?
The projects. Well,
I mean, right now, the Woodlands Division has $12 million in bank cash. At what point do you say, okay, let's pay with cash and let's not pay the bank any interest? What I'm
We've got-
trying to do is, I don't want Adam to earn any interest from bonds.
but his kids are trying to go to college.
Look at exhibit two.
Or they-
Exactly what he earns.
Yeah, so.
So some of it kind of depends on what projects are in the R and R fund. You know, we only get $6 million a year from the money, the budget that you approve for us to go in the R and R fund. And so we do have projects identified in the R and R fund that probably need to be paid for with cash, but we don't have enough to cover something like the town center water line project that's probably close to $20 million. Woodlands Parkway water line project is 25 million.
Right.
Today's dollars. So the bonds are really more for the bigger projects that are longer lasting, and the pumps and motors that have a 10-year life, we wouldn't do bonds for. Some of the other maintenance work, blowers, those sorts of things would be paid for with the R and R funds.
Also, the R and R fund is pre-funded, so all those projects, we don't wait for the $6 million to come in. So for a few years, like EST 6, that's basically $12 to $13 million. We have to save money each year, and so the R and R goes up, but then we pre-fund that. So when we can, like EST 6, Lift Station 5, both of those around $10-12 million, we do pre-fund those, so there's no bond needed.
And to add to that, our general manager requires that the funds be in the bank before we can advertise the project for bid. And so,
Bank in which account?
in our account,
In R and R account or in cash?
well, R and R account is
Or bond, just simple bonds?
just money in the bank, in the account.
So you have to draw from the bonds
Yes.
and put it in the bank.
When you sell the bond, you get the money, basically,
And we stick it in a special account.
for that bond.
You get the full amount?
We get
Bonds?
based on what is
Or
sold.
different trust that you draw upon?
Well, that's,
Let's make up numbers. If it's $10 million.
if we go out for a $35 million bond sale, then we get roughly $35 million and put it in the bank.
Okay.
And then, so that's the impetus to try and move through the projects as quick as possible because
Of course.
of the 3-year arbitrage issue.
So, we've been watching the escalation of costs. So when we go back, to 2024, this month, 2024, we were talking about a $500 million expenditure. And if you take the AC pipe portion of that, right, 45 miles, 180 million, you get $4 million per mile. And then again, I got my chicken scratch here. This is take the Woodlands Parkway. So we look at the HDR study, that comes out to be 6.7 million per mile, and now we're at 12.6 million a mile. So I guess I'm looking for a mapping to take us from the 4 to the 12.
That's next. That
That's next.
conversation is next,
We can say next today.
right now.
Okay, good. I'll draw my question.
If Tom's done with his questions,
Yeah.
I'm ready. Okay, if you will go to the email that's dated April 14th, you have this at your place. Got it?
Got it.
Tom,
April 16th?
April 14th.
This one here.
Sixteenth tomorrow.
I didn't write any emails for tomorrow.
You didn't save them to go out?
No, ma'am.
Not yet.
That's beyond my technical capability.
Ed, who? Here we go. Got it. Yeah, I got it. He got it.
Okay. So, questions have been asked by various people as to why are HDR numbers different than SRA numbers? And if you remember, we distributed a spreadsheet February that's 11/17 that identifies the tier one projects and their estimated costs. So the purpose of this email is to walk you step by step through what we did to calculate those numbers. And as I just went through the schedule, shows that we're several years from going to construction, we're several years from going to engineering and so forth. We're adding in inflation. In some cases, our contingency sits out there a little bit longer than what HDR might have carried. And remember, HDR's numbers only went to 2020. They were 2025 numbers. They were not forecasted forward. So what I'm going to ask you to do is read through this. This is only for the Woodland Parkway waterline. We wanted to make certain that you all were comfortable with this methodology before we went and did this on all the R&R projects and all the capital projects. So please read through this. If you have questions, pass them to Eric, and we will respond. The other part of this is to also walk you through what was on the spreadsheet versus how it compares to the projects sheet that you're going to see next month. Yeah, Chris is going to bring a booklet about that thick of 10-year project plan projects. And we'll go over that first year or so of projects so that you can kind of see what's in the plan. But you'll see when you look at those sheets, we have dollars spread out over multiple years, and we add inflation for every year that project's in play to try and make certain that there's sufficient money to build these projects.
So that document, is that available in a PDF format that
Not yet.
not yet? Oh, you're bringing it.
He's going to present in May.
He's gonna present in May, but before he presents, can we get a copy?
The project, 10-year project plan?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll have it for the trustees meeting. We'll give it to
Oh,
Woodland.
trustee meeting, okay, good.
Yeah. We have,
Will we give them electronic? So they can.
yeah, we'll send it to them, but we need to meet with the Woodlands Water first, then the audit committee, make sure everything's good. Once that's good, then we'll get it to Eric and Shelley, Kim, so it can be loaded up. So, yeah, you'll have it.
Take a look at this second paragraph, because these are some of the unknowns that we don't know how to factor, because it's constantly evolving item. You know, gasoline prices, diesel prices, labor availability, contractors having too much work and overbidding or bidding high on a project, and contractors not having enough work and bidding low. We like those guys as long as they cover their costs. But this is that unknown factor when it comes down to actually putting the project out for bid, us receiving the bids, how it's going to compare. I can tell you the engineer never wants to be the low bidder on a project.
So you're saying he always bids high?
Well, they're going to put average budget numbers in his unit prices, so that when the bids come in, we would rather have a little bit extra money sitting in the bank than having to come back to you and say, we need more money because the project came in over budget.
And there are online cost estimating tools now that
Plus, they use existing projects that they bid recently to help compare prices. And a lot of it depends on how big the project is versus how small. You know, if it's a small project and you're only doing 1,000 feet of water line, they're going to bid it higher per linear foot than if there's 6,000 feet of water line.
It's very region specific too, by the way.
Yes.
This may be a question for Brian, but in the supplemental agreement, do we have any protections in place to protect us from, let's say there's an expansion of a project, either in the schedule or the scope of the project?
The SGRA is protected. The MUDs are not in the contract.
Right. So do we have any protections against that? In other words, what if they expand a tier one project?
Well, they uncover something that needs more work.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Are we protected against that? Let's say that you want to do something. Do the trustees have the authority to say, no, we don't want to do that?
So the supplemental is as to projects that are the tier one as set out in the
Right,
reports.
so what I'm saying is if we have a tier one project that somehow gets blown out of proportion, for whatever reason.
Well, it would be tied to the report.
Right.
So the report would have to, I mean, if it's tied to that particular report, then that's the scope of it. That's the
If
scope.
it's 20% overrun, let's put it into real terms, the 20% overrun, okay? We've got, if it's in 46, we've got to pay it. That's the bottom line.
Well,
Not,
Well, because the way the contract's written, that's how it is.
no, it's paid out of bond proceeds.
Right. But
So it's not-
eventually the rolling of the numbers, unless there is some underspending, will, at the end of the term of that bond, the full call of money, any overages will basically take away from projects because you'll have no more money left.
So the structure for this, now, and again, we understand there's gonna be a series of supplemental report projects and what have you, is for this first one to be, this first supplemental to just be for the two projects in the first bond issue to be for.
Yeah, that's the one in the package, right?
First part of the
Right.
project, right? And so the idea would be, you would have a better sense of the cost of the second one, which I think still needs more engineering work done, because that, the funds for that would be included in the first tranche.
Right.
And so you would have a better idea of the size of the second one once your engineering was tightened up. That's my understanding. So
Okay.
you would size each issue as you get more information. And
Okay.
then we would go forward from there as to, if there's some COVID-like spike in inflation and that pushes up the cost more than what your bond, which I have a hard time believing that it would exceed what because there's already contingency amounts and what have you in the numbers that are provided. But let's say that crazy thing happened, then yeah, we would have to come back and say, all right, do we roll that into a additional supplemental for a subsequent bond issue? Do we pull, is it a small enough amount that maybe they can pull it out of R&R and be able to fund it out of that? But those conversations would have to happen as to if there was a shortfall after the total amount of authorization was exhausted. If
That's
that
what I was
rolled-
referring to. Correct, yeah.
we would have to either roll that into a subsequent supplemental for the next set of tier two work. Or again, if it's smaller, maybe it could be paid for out of R&R funds.
So Ed, I've been at the board meeting and recently you had a cost overrun in waste plant, water plant two. And couple $100,000 and you went to your board
Correct.
and they approved the cost overrun.
Yes.
And but I guess the two-part question, they could have turned it down.
They could
They
have,
could have turned it down. The impact on the project, I don't
it
know.
would have created a problem
Problem.
on that particular one, yeah.
So in the future, as we begin this long process, can we work on getting an agreement that you'd come back with those overruns to the trustee board prior to your board, so you can get our opinion, or at least our affirmation that these things are going, then you can go to your board. I hate, last time, they voted, but I hate to say it, we've been so busy doing things that we haven't got down to the $300,000 yet.
So
But can we work an arrangement?
yeah, we normally do. I think you're talking about the one that occurred in December.
That's right.
Yeah, and in that one, there were no mud meetings in December, and we found out about it in late November. And so we had to keep the contractor moving. So we did go to our board first, but we did bring it back to y'all. Any budget amendment that goes to our board, they do require it to go to the customer first and get y'all's at least acknowledgement that, yes, you agree with it or disagree with it.
So that gives us participation in the decision-making process if there's overrun.
Any other questions on that item? So we have one more email to discuss and then any questions you might have over the supplemental agreement. This is the April 13th email. The title of it is Project from Concept to Completion. Tom, got it? It's multiple pages.
I got it. I got it. I couldn't expedite.
So this one was also generated by a number of questions by directors, not really fully knowing the process SRA goes through to identify a project, put a project on the project plan, and then go forward with getting conceptual through design through completion. And so the purpose of this is to kind of walk you through that process, tell you all the steps that we go through and the different phases. The different phases are conceptual, it's basically a feasibility study, preliminary engineering, final design, then there's bidding phase, and then there's a construction phase. And there's a little bit of verbiage up front, kind of walking you through some of the different concepts, some of the different projects that we've done where we've had a conceptual phase involved. And the most recent one was the HDR report, where they did the condition assessment of the water lines, came back with a report. Now we're trying to go into design or preliminary phase on Woodlands Parkway and finish up design phase on Town Center. So again, this one is for your reading pleasure, and if you have questions, pass them on to Eric. In a conversation that I had with Eric earlier today, there are two things that did not get included in this document. One is to give you an estimated time frame for each phase. You know, conceptual phase could be anywhere from 6 months to a year. Preliminary engineering, 6 months to a year. So you can see how long it takes to go through the whole process if it were seamless from start to finish. The other thing that's not in here is when we would need to tell you all when the money needs to be available and how much money needs to be available. And so I'm going to add that and resend this. What I add to it will be in red, so you can see what's been updated. And I will get that to Eric and we'll get that disseminated. But sorry, this is kind of lengthy, but as you go through it, you'll see the different steps. One last thing. As you go through this, you'll see in the conceptual phase, we have a conceptual cost estimate, and that's got at least a 30% contingency. When you go into preliminary engineering design, you know, they're doing a little bit of work, but a lot of more of it is reporting with some basic plan and profiles if it's a linear project. If it's a plant layout with some basic sizes to it. As you get into final design, we have a requirement where the consultant is updating us at a 30% complete, 60% and a 90% complete. And they're updating the cost estimates for each of those milestones and then delivering a final cost estimate to us with the finished planning profiles and the contract documents and the technical specifications. So there's multiple times that contractor or the engineer is updating that cost estimate. And as time evolves, we're updating that estimate in the project plan. We may show what the original was and then show what is current so that you all can see the progression of what's happening with project costs. Yes, sir.
You triggered a thought in the previous point that you brought up. You give a hypothetical example of a $35 million bond. And you said it's got to be in your bank account before the project is done.
Before we advertise, yes.
Yeah, and in previous, and even in this agreement, it talks about paying the money to the SJRA based on these estimates that you talk about. So my question is, why would the SJRA or the Woodlands division of the SJRA be holding that money and not the MUDs themselves? Because again, we're talking about interest arbitrage, and I have some points in the contract that are disconcerting to me, and I want to drill down and get your point of view. So why aren't we, based on the needs that you have, pay for what you get billed in a timely manner and allow you to dispose to handle those expenses?
Brian, you want
Yeah.
to step in on that one?
Let me try to unpack that a little bit. So what's happened in the flow of funds is that the River Authority is issuing water on this first set, would be issuing water revenue bonds.
Correct.
to be able to pay for the project.
Guaranteed by the revenue that, I got it. I understand that.
So the funds come from whoever the purchaser or purchasers are of the bonds goes to the river authority. Those funds have to be kept separate under federal tax law because they're tax exempt.
I understand that
So
too.
they have to be kept with the issuer to be able to be used toward projects. You don't dispose those out to ratepayers to hold and then give back to the issuer.
Mhm.
What's coming from each individual MUD is just monthly wholesale rates based on each district's usage, which could vary month to month, year to year. You
Mud
may
to
have-
mud, absolutely, 100%.
So that's
I'm,
the only money flowing from the MUD.
I got
to
that.
the river authority.
The question that I'm trying to get to is that in that example you just gave,
Okay.
you've got $35 million
Yes,
that's sequestered,
yes.
drawing interest at some rate, call it 4%, okay?
Correct.
Where does that money go since we are obligated to pay it? Even though it's in the name of the SCRA, we don't have assets backing it up, but we are obligated to pay it.
You're talking about the rates for the debt service.
Correct.
Right, so any funds generated, it's just like MUD bond funds. So they go into a construction account and any funds generated on that stay in the construction account. And they,
For each month.
no, for each issuer as part of the federal tax framework. So
I think it goes into their account.
I think what Fred's getting at is the monthly payment sits in the account until the obligation for the 10-1 payment or the 4-1 payment. That's, I think that's
Adam's got it.
not the,
So the monthly payments are just the wholesale rates that are paid by each individual
Yeah,
district.
but we take them up, when we signed this agreement, not we, but when they signed this agreement, that's gonna be for a fixed amount. It's not gonna be for the full $35 million. It's gonna be whatever is assigned to MUD 46, correct?
No, it's just you pay a wholesale rate for every 1,000 gallons of water that you.
Understood.
There will be an incremental increase in that wholesale rate to take into account the debt service. So there's not a particular amount of the River Authority bond issue that's attributable to a certain MUD, because the bonds will be outstanding for
20 years.
25 years, right?
you may have Metro do a lot of dense development and their pro rata share of the water usage may go from, just making up numbers, 10% to 30%. That's all going to fluctuate, over the years. So all you're paying as a MUD is your wholesale rate, a small component of which will be the amount attributable to the debt service on the bonds. And those funds go into the debt service account. They're still segregated. They go just to pay off the debt. And so to the extent that you have, a better rate, which you're not really, under the Texas Public Funds Investment Act, you're limited on what your investment goals. It's got to be, preservation of capital, liquidity, last year's rate of return. So it's not like they're going and investing us either, going and investing in things that are more high yield, but would be higher risk. Anyway, whatever those funds are, that stays in the debt service account. If for some reason they got an incrementally higher rate, and I'm talking the same for any issuer, it could be a bond issue of ours. What that means is you have a higher balance in your debt service account the next year when you go to see, okay, well, what do I need to charge?
Carry forward.
Exactly. So it would just mean you have an incrementally lower wholesale rate next year.
Got it. I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then interest earned can be used to help pay off the bond debt.
Or future increased costs that are
Yeah.
not in the projections. Right. Good. Thank you.
Other questions on the 3 items I presented?
I don't know whether Eric, can you do that or did Ed do that?
That's right.
Ed? So this top line, let's just take town center, just, projected cost is $24 million. That top of that spreadsheet is cash, doesn't include bond debt, doesn't include interest. It's just what the cash flow has to
Right.
be. And then when you sum it all up, then you have to create a bond flow.
Mhm.
to do.
Well, and then I think at the bottom, towards the bottom, down here, it says,
My first bond, second.
so it shows you what we need to do the project.
Yeah.
And then this would be the bond sale.
Bond sale, and then obviously, you know, we from this, we get a bond payment schedule.
Right.
With the principal and interest. I see.
It's a draft is the next page of that.
That's the next page, right?
Next few pages.
Yeah, 2 pages, yeah. So if I would take this and put, obviously, there's I guess what the question I have is, if, let's say we would pay this with cash, I know this is probably highly unlikely, but what would be in order to do it in cash, how many pennies per 1,000 gallons would you have to have each
Well,
year? Is that?
let me offer this before you go that direction. If Mud 47 decided to pay cash and whatever their pro rata share is of the bond or whatever the cost is, that amount would be subtracted from the bond sold and you wouldn't have a payment unless you did a partial cash and partial bond.
Of course, that becomes messy because then you
Yes.
have one district that's got one incremental wholesale rate and everybody else has a different incremental rate. And maybe that one district paying cash shaved off a penny or two of the, 47 cent?
Yeah, 47.
Yeah, so maybe it goes from 47 to 45 and you got 10 districts pay, or 9 districts paying 47 and 1 paying 45.
The negative to y'all is you would have to put that cash up front with us. Because we have to have it secured to be able to pay the
Or
contract.
you'd have to, if possible, you'd have to raise the water date rates to adjust to get that cash flow you need. Instead of bond debt.
That would.
But that's-
47
Can't do that.
cents.
No,
No, can't do that.
happen if you go that.
You can do that, but
That would be
Yeah,
10, 20,
the
30.
struggle-
multipliers.
Yeah, the struggle there on the cash pay is that you've got this long life asset once it's been
Right,
repaired or replaced.
25-year.
And the unlucky soul who's sitting in the house when
Yeah, yeah.
that bill gets charged, they gotta pay full freight for something that people get the benefit. for
25-year, I
another
understand that.
20 plus years.
Okay,
But if we go that way of paying cash, which was talked about in previous meetings, that's going to be an inevitable situation. And I've written Eric a couple of emails on that subject and how it's being communicated. And once we get into the contract, I think I'd like to talk about that in a little bit more depth. Do you have anything you want to talk about to present on the contract?
Go ahead.
Before you do that, any more questions of me? And I will go sit down and happily sit there and be quiet. Nope.
you have your schedule.
Yep.
And so it's a June, July-ish timeframe. We'll have new board members and we can discuss that in more detail.
All right.
Can we have this given to the new directors?
Mhm.
Of course,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna, just like
Good
you,
document.
just like you all got, I think you got a flash drive from us of all the documents that we had published prior to you taking your seat. We will do the same with the new directors.
It's a little bit
Overwhelming. Thank you all very much.
Everybody grab the same word.
It's a lot.
All right, supplemental. So what you have in your packet is the draft that was presented last month. There were a handful of small comments from directors last month, just to refresh everybody's recollection. This version of a supplemental agreement for the debt financing of repair and rehabilitation projects is based on the form that was used in 2017 for the first time that the River Authority needed to issue bonds. So this was the version that was agreed to between the 10, I can't remember if it was 10 or 11 months back then, and the River Authority. So as opposed to going and reinventing the wheel, it was that same template and is being provided to the directors. And I think at this point, the request is, to the extent that folks have comments, to provide those to me and to Eric to look at, so we can get a sense, because there's a spectrum, frankly, of opinions among directors about how the project should work, the level of oversight, et cetera. So right now, it's important just to get folks' comments and, what their thoughts are. So then we can go through those and see about how to, navigate a path, through that.
And who prepared this document?
This was prepared by the River Authority.
Okay, not their legal counsel.
Yeah.
So it was Schwartz, Page and Harding prepared it.
Schwartz, Page and Harding, the counsel for the River Authority.
Okay. And you reviewed this document before you put it in this package?
To make sure that it was consistent with the 2017 version.
Okay. And you approved of that?
Well, again, this isn't about approval at this point. This is
You didn't
about
see anything that was detrimental to Mud 46?
from what was previously approved between the parties for how to handle the debt service financing.
Okay.
So again, this is not intended to be, unless boards are comfortable with the same format as 2017. Right now, what the request is to provide comments, and then we can look at those along with other directors and see, what changes, need to be made to satisfy the needs of the current directors.
And Eric, you approved this too? Looked at it, reviewed it?
I've reviewed it. Yes, it's consistent with the 2017.
Okay. Ed, same thing? David, did you see this document before it got published? And you,
I've not seen the 2017.
oh, I've got them all from the very beginning, from I think 85.
Now, just to make a point,
Yeah.
we're not approving this document.
Right.
this
No,
month.
this
We're
is-
approving this in a few months.
The proposal, as you may recall from the numerous times that I have sent, in some cases, lengthy emails to the board over the past several years, I've got a problem with supplemental agreements to begin with, because they're unilateral basically in construction. We are a captive customer with a captive supplier. And I don't believe, because when I took this position, my point of view was that I'm here to represent the residents of Mud 46. And when I see things that are unilateral, as the previous supplemental agreements have been, I wrote numerous comments that Ed and both Eric were very responsive to. We've had meetings on this over the past several years. I don't see those conversations being reflected and conclusions that were made during that meeting in this document. And that's why I have a problem with it. And to give you a few examples. Take a look at page 57, please. Eric and the WWA have gone on record in community impact and through emails and through a very excellent marketing program in talking about how the expenses for these projects will possibly have an increase in rates or taxes or modest increases. This paragraph E specifically says over one or several years would require a significant and burdensome short-term increase in water rate paid to the authority by the customer. That flies in the face of what the WWA has been presenting in their marketing programs. And quite frankly, given the fact that Eric's already gone out on a limb and the WWA has, I find this to be troublesome because it is counter to what has been communicated. And in my last communication to Eric, I recommended that he do some focus groups talking about or investigating price elasticity, price sensitivity subjects with residents, so he can get a flavor for what the tenor of the residents are for price increases. Because if we when we go forward with these projects, it should be totally transparent, and our residents should know what they're getting into. And I don't believe that there's been a fair statement, and having the SJRA put forth a comment that it would be burdensome and significant is diametrically opposed to what the WWA has stated.
What page are you on, Fred?
I'm on page 57, paragraph E.
Oh, I'm on a different,
So Frank, can I kind of hit pause there and
Yeah.
respond to that concern?
Section,
So
it's
what's being addressed?
under recitals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there were some-
It's in the package.
maybe I'm using it, I had 2 copies in the packet.
Oh. Well, let's have a second. Have a catch up.
Of, from the top on page 57, recital E. So what that is,
Talking about this word here, significant and burdensome short-term increase.
okay, so what that is referring to is what, we were talking about, a minute ago, David and I, about if you don't have, the main thrust of the supplemental agreement is to provide a mechanism to bond finance costs that would otherwise have to be cash funded. And what this recital is saying is, but for this amendment, that 45 million would have to be cash funded, and that cash fund would be burdensome
I clearly
on
understand.
residents. And so it's more cost effective for the community to have that useful life be spread, useful life of the asset be matched up with a bond term so that people can pay over time, and it lowers the incremental cost to folks each year.
Except for one
I
thing.
get there's debt service and all that.
Yeah, except for the debt, which almost doubles the price of the initial bond offering. Almost. So my point is, here's a man who's representing WWA. He's in charge of it. He says, don't worry, we're going to control this. It's going to be modest, but it's not going to be problematic.
I think it's fair to say that all those communications are based on the presumption that these large cost items that would be pretty difficult to bear on a cash flow basis. The assumption in those, in those pieces are that these items will be bond funded, and therefore they will be manageable, and therefore they will be incremental.
That was in my note to him too. I said, if you go the bond approach,
Yeah.
you're talking between $400 and $1,000 per resident.
Exactly. I think those communications are based on the
No,
assumption.
I clearly understand. That's what I wrote to him,
Yeah.
is specifically those observations.
Yeah.
And my concern is, I don't want there to be a credibility issue between the WWA and the MUDs and the residents.
Yeah.
This document, if the stuff hits the fan and our residents start standing out in the parking lot with pitchforks and torches, I mean, we've got to be able to protect the MUDs. I would like to think the board directors going forward would want to say, hey, wait a second. We were talking about modest, and SGRA can say, excuse me, right over here, it says significant and burdensome.
Yeah, no, I feel like that could be easily addressed by saying, look, the purpose of the recitals are to say, why are we doing this amendment? It's to kind of lay out the history of.
I hear you. I'm not with the board going forward.
Yeah.
Okay, because I disagree with this agreement vehemently. But for the protection of the WWA and the board members going forward, I really think this needs to be looked at a little bit differently. This type of document being distributed after it's signed, I think is troublesome to the credibility of the WWA and the individual MUDs that signed this. That's just my point of view.
I have one question. If we look at page 57, agreement, section 4B, it has 75,000, 45,000. Where are those numbers coming from? I'm looking at the green sheet, and it has like 54 million, 55 million. Then we jump to 45 and 70. Could you explain what?
He's actually, it's on page 58.
I'm on
58 in the middle.
right in the middle, B.
That's where y'all came up with the notches.
Yeah. That's good. Because I was trying to reference that.
As well too, David.
Yeah, I was trying to reference that to this, and I got lost.
There is some I would say some protection in there
Okay,
to ensure that there is sufficient money to cover both projects without having to come back and do a cash call or defer something until the next tranche. And, you know, we're hedging it a little bit.
so if,
Plus, there's soft costs associated with the bond sale, each bond sale. That,
those bond sales are all expensive, I know.
well, there's a certain amount of money that goes to the Attorney General's office, there's a certain amount of money that goes to bond counsel, a certain amount of money that goes to financial advisor. And
Debt service reserve.
The reserve
Debt
is
service
the
reserve.
biggest component because you're basing everything on revenues and not an unlimited tax play.
Waive this fee.
Okay, so what you're saying is we're putting an up and lower bound
Yeah.
on the project.
The bandwidth, but the question that I had to the point David was making, nowhere in our communications are we translating that to the financial impact to the Woodland residents. It's not stated, it's not presented, and there's no oversight to give estimates before we pull the trigger, or when we decide that between 45 and 75 million, this is the possible impact to you, Mr. Resident, based on your expenditures.
I think Eric gave you something earlier this year.
Or mentioned that they were gonna be refined for the May meeting.
Yeah, so,
Okay, so this,
Is that?
so this is not the main meeting.
47 cents.
Yeah, but is that for the first tranche, second tranche?
Sure, that equaled about the 32 million, which was the first tranche. Right. Yeah.
Okay,
so, but regardless, we still have to have a tax rollback election.
What?
We have to go through a tax rollback election to get approval to fund these bonds.
No.
But the taxpayer, you don't,
No, I mean, what we're, again.
we're gonna strictly fund it through the SRA.
Well, so I think right now that's still to be determined. One train of thought, and it's kind of what we've been talking about a little, but nothing settled yet, is you likely only want to go to your voters once. And this is a policy decision for the board, but just kind of looking at it from the outside. You likely only want to go to your voters once and ask for a rollback election. You don't want to have to go multiple times. So when you go, you have to go up to the rate that you're going to go up to. And so the thought would be, these are smaller bond issues compared to what you're going to have on the wastewater treatment plant. So to the extent you can pay for this out of your retail rate, some of the refund money that you have coming back from the River Authority, maybe you're able to generate some additional tax revenue by going up to the max without having a rollback election, that you can kind of bounce along through these first few. And then when you get to the larger ticket item, which is the wastewater treatment plant, that's when you burn your powder on going on a rollback election. But you don't do it on a small one. You don't want to have to go do it twice. You just wait and kind of bounce along.
Give a deadline of 16th to 17th of August to
Correct.
make all that happen.
Correct, which would be the year that you would be considering doing the bond issue for the wastewater treatment plant items.
So in reality, this year would be extremely difficult.
You would not be.
No,
You would not be doing a rollback election this year.
No. Is it, and the way that I'm looking at it is, if we're looking at 30 million, and let's just say 30 million equals a $4.50 or 70 cent difference on the water bill. So for every 30 or 32 million, it's about $4, $4.70. Well, that amount and that's over the next 5 years for the first two tiers. And so theoretically, if we stuck with that program in 5 years, it could be around $9.40, whatever total. But if you're looking at a bigger number, all of a sudden, 100 at a time, or the tier 2 projects, you have all those projects coming at once, you might say, well, I don't want to continue this $4, for the next 10 years. You might say, now's the time to go to the voters to get it all at once in terms of the permission through the tax side, if that's what the boards want to do, and not continue with the water rate process. But for $4 on a water bill, you might say, well, okay, that makes sense, but $4 times 10 or whatever the number ends up being when you factor in the tier 2 projects and the wastewater treatment plant, whatever that ends up being, now you're talking about another 100 million or 150, whatever those numbers are. You're not talking about 30 million anymore. And so to his point, once you have that those items identified, that's when you lump those up and decide, okay, we're either going to continue down the path of putting this on the water bill for every 30 minutes or whatever it is, or it's time to go to the voters at that point. But for $4.70, it doesn't make sense to do that at all. So we wouldn't even propose that, certainly for these first two tranches. And this will buy us some time to get more information on the wastewater treatment plant and to fine tune some of those numbers, as well as the tier 2 projects, which are going to be in year 6 or 7. So that's, I mean, that we've got that, there's a good bit of time between now and then that you'd even need to make those decisions.
Oh, in all, but we probably have between now and 2030, the next 4 years, we have 6 million in payments that'll be coming to an end, roughly. So.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, to the extent you're able to move over funds, now maybe you go up to the max, 3.5, revenue increase, and then you've got a bit of a debt, step down. You can move those pennies over, and that doesn't count against your 3.5%. That would be, a great opportunity to be able to squirrel away a little bit extra that would, lower the amount that you would have to potentially go for a rollback, if at all, who knows?
But in a sense, the resident has to make that link between property bill cost per month versus water bill cost per month. Mine's about half and half.
Correct. And so that's going to be an outreach thing on the policy. I think there's a great story to tell because it's incredibly tax efficient. With rates, you get 0 deduction. On the tax side, you get 2 federal, you get the homestead exemption for residents, if you're a resident. And then if you itemize whatever portion you pay after the exemption, you can take that, and the salt change this year, you can itemize that, and the federal government subsidizing a portion of your piece. So I mean, that's a.
But only moved to New York, right?
Yeah, you're gonna pay a pretty penny for that.
Okay.
So you'll have to educate voters. There's a good story to tell.
No questions, and I sent you a copy of my.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so.
well, it's been said to act. I don't think we need to act.
Yeah, so item 12, we're not gonna act, we discussed it, we're gonna wait the next month, so let's do the one we need to deal with. Discuss and act of the water reclamation facility 1 condition assessment study. Did we
All right.
write that?
So I'm going to be speaking from this memo right here. This is a different memo than what was at the trustees. I believe it's in front of you. If not, let me know. Top right, it just says April of 26. So if you were at the trustees meeting or you watched the trustees meeting, you would have heard a lot of conversation and a recommendation put forward by the River Authority. After that meeting, we had some internal conversations and we have a different recommendation for the MUDs to consider. We're bringing it to the MUDs this month and we're asking for the trustees to take action at the May trustees meeting. So I'm gonna skip through the top, get to the bottom, but y'all know we've looked at this for 5 years with y'all. Since 21, we've looked at it since 20 internally. Spent somewhere between $3 and $4 million how you look at it. And so far we're still studying. So going down to the bottom, items number 1, 2, 2A, 2B. So recommendation is to stop further analysis, do not do the comparative analysis of the 4 options, and move forward with a repair in place strategy. Okay. Items 2A and 2B. So to item 2A is to right size the facility. So get a consultant on board, utilizing the funds that are already available in the budget for the owner's advisor. Just reallocating them. It's still on the owner's advisor contract, but scope change. But that consultant will work with the data that Woodlands Water put together on the SFUEs, work with TCEQ to determine their rules and regulations and exactly what the facility would need to be for a 2-hour peak flow and permitted average daily flow. As y'all know, you don't want to build a plant at 7.8 if you need 6. You don't want to build one at 5 if you need 6. So work with TCEQ instead of going back and forth with consultants and engineers, get with the people that are going to tell us what it needs to be, work with them to see what it needs to be. So that's part of the study. Item 2B is then going and pulling a play out of the HDR handbook and developing a tiered repair/replacement strategy. So as you know, with HDR, they said tier 1, these 2 lines need to be done. Tier 2, these 3 or 4 recommended, so on and so forth. The same approach is what we're recommending here. Getting with Corello consultant that's did the condition assessment for plant 1 and asking them, because they just did the condition assessment, said, here's everything that's good, everything that's bad. No cost, no real timeline of replacement or repair, anything else. Get with Corello and say, take that condition assessment and break it up into tiers. Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Those tiers may be 5 years apiece. They may be 10 years based on whatever they find in there. Within that tiered repair strategy, you're going to have probably at least 2 to 3 different things. One is you're going to have these things should be bond funded. It's concrete going to last 50 years, bond funded for 20 something years. And that way, it'll outlive the bond. There may be some stuff in there, pumps and motors that last 10, 15 years that don't need to be bond funded. We'll fund them out of cash somehow. But wrapping this up, kind of bringing it all back together, we're looking for a repair in place strategy, a tiered program on the repair/replacement of some basins, and then actually right sizing the facility based off of what it needs to be. Put all that together, should be 6 to 9 months and just under $200,000, and should give everything that's needed to the MUDs to make a decision going forward. There's one thing that is not included in here, okay? And this is going to be separate. When we were doing the entire last 5 years, we talked about the land acquisition around wastewater plant 1. With this strategy, you may need to purchase some land, lay down area, additional access, or equalization basins, right? If TCQ comes back and says the peak flow needs to be 24 million gallons a day, we say, but if we put in equalization or storage for 2 million, what will it be? And they say 18 million gallons a day. That'd be advantageous to do. To do that, you'd probably have to buy some land. So there is a land component to this just to do this strategy that is not generally included right now. Another thing for the MUDs to consider is this strategy is a 20-25 year strategy. But at some point in time, you do have to consider, okay, where's the plant now and everything else is, you code everything and it ages out at 20-25 years. It may be worth it to the MUDs to consider buying all the land around wastewater plant 1, not for today, but for use in 20-25 years. It's not generally included, but it is a topic that will probably come up in the next 6 months to a year or so. That is the overall recommendation. Of course, the trustees can do as they see fit, but this is what we wanted to propose to you.
I think this is a better alternative that was brought up at the trustee meeting, to be honest with you. But I did go online and find something since we talk about aging. So this is a wastewater treatment in El Paso. It just got done celebrating its 100th year anniversary. So, it's been around long. It's about 4 times bigger than we are, but they've been at it for years as of 2023.
And it is possible,
Yeah.
but a lot of it is also just depends. I mean, climate for one, El Paso versus here. But the other part is like Corello talked about with coatings and stuff. And not a part of this, and just a separate discussion that you'll see next month is coatings do definitely protect the concrete, right? And so it's definitely something we're considering at plant 1, but the MUDs may want to consider being proactive and looking at plants 2 and plant 3 as well, just to go ahead and coat stuff so you don't end up in the same place where you need to replace things. So, but yeah, anything is generally possible. It just depends on, climate and preventative maintenance. So that's my spiel.
Good job.
Yeah, great.
Any comments?
I think it's well thought out.
Can I get a motion to pass this
Motion just,
No.
you need concurrence,
concurrence? Okay,
which direction to go.
okay, so, would the board want to give me concurrence on to
Yeah.
vote to approve?
I'm in favor of it.
I'm in favor of it.
But, yep, that's unanimous, so we're okay. Okay, so, well, we're running out of time.
Real quick, 14, we heard back from the Corps. Remember, we applied for the CAP funding first step was for them to look at it to see if they wanted to go to the feasibility stage. They do, however, they don't have funding to do the feasibility, so they've told us that they need to put that in next year's budget. So so we're hopeful that they'll do that. Then, you know, recall if they once they complete the feasibility, then they will deem it a partnerable project or not. And if it is partnered with them, then we could potentially get the entire funding gap that we're looking for under the CAP program. So next item is to inform the Texas Water Development Board of this delay, just to make sure that the funding that we do have in place isn't jeopardized by this delay. And the third item was to consider, and this was 67 was looking at this because they are the lead on this project, as to whether or not we want to go ask some of these entities if there's any funds available in the community to help out. We've already done this once with a couple of these.
You're in the ninth.
Yep. So they did agree to go ahead and just have a meeting with those folks to see if there's any.
But we've been that route once
We
in
have.
the nose. Yeah,
We have.
Okay.
But, we're
Yeah.
gonna try again.
try again.
While we're waiting for the.
Those are cheap.
Yeah, that's cheap. Yeah. Just, hey, let's ask again. So that's all.
Okay, 15, discuss potential amendment to district water establishing policy for renovation water and wastewater utility capacity. Is that yours, Fred? No,
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Okay, so let's go to the attorney. Oh, he escaped.
He didn't.
The bond guy want to do that for him?
I don't.
You know.
I'm an engineer and NFA, not
Okay.
an attorney.
So let's go to 17 then. Discuss and approve determination of financial advisory agreement. Why don't you tell us? that
17
story?
and 18. So our team of 16, which is the Texas Special District Practice, decided to separate from Baird. And so there is a letter. If you look at page 69, to that effect, it is an amicable separation. What we've learned over the years,
84.
you know, page 69 is the letter.
Ours is 84, 85. They're all the same.
So, you know, big picture, what we've learned in basically teaching Baird about special district bonds in Texas. They've become the second largest purchaser of muni debt in Texas. And so one thing that they can't do as we represent the districts is bid on bonds. And we represent roughly 400 districts now. And so it was our decision to separate from Baird to, in the future, have them as a competitive bidder on future bond issuances. And so that being said, you know, Baird acknowledges that they don't have the capacity to serve special district clients as our whole team is exiting the company, separating. And so their request is to be terminated, and, you know, our
Was
request,
this initiated by your team or
Yes.
was it?
it
Okay,
was initiated by our team.
and it's basically self-funding because of the way the compensation agreement exhibit 2 is, because of all of the money you're getting to supervise and analyze for current bonds. It basically is
So-
seed capital for you.
No.
Just
So
to be honest.
the boxes are only, and what's on exhibit 2 in the packet is not your contract.
Oh,
So your
that's
contract,
what I was looking at.
yeah, so
Sorry.
we had sent, that's a good question. This form contract is what we sent to Schwartz Page as just a blanket because we have a lot of districts we work on with them. And this got put in, this is kind of the going market rate for standalone districts currently.
Okay,
Your contract is the same contract that was included in RBCs when we were at RBCs. It's the same contract that's included at
101 of the agreement, of the packet.
that is, so that, yeah, that is the form contract. No. This is the current contract, so it is the same as what you currently have. And this only gets implemented when you sell bonds. So that is not for outstanding debt that is not for
Okay,
anything existing. That would be for future bond issuances. That is the tiered schedule.
fine.
The only
The
addition,
only fee would be the number two.
correct, number two, and you can see,
Three, right?
Or the-
That's three, right, yeah.
well, so
You-
let me preface with two, if you look at our contract for the Woodlands districts, because a lot of times when we meet with staff, it's multiple districts at a time. We're asking for an annual service fee of $5,000, which when you look at it on an hourly basis is roughly 14 hours annually. The hourly fee, based on number two, we would not charge anything beyond the $5,000
Is this per month or is this?
per month. Correct.
Is it 5 or 10?
Five.
Five.
So 10 for standalone districts
I
because
see.
there's 10 districts. We dropped it to 5 and, just looking at, hour and a half meeting 12 times a year is $6,300. That doesn't include tax rate. That does not include budget discussions, exemption discussions or anything like that. It's just to offset some overhead.
Good luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so any more questions?
It Says discuss and approve.
Right, I have that. So I have the contract.
I approve it.
Do you approve it? Anybody, any objections?
First motion to authorize termination if you haven't already done
I
that.
propose that we terminate the contract.
I second the motion.
Okay, a second.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
And the second motion would be to approve the new contract.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye, you've been hired.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm here now.
You're hired, get to work.
$50 an hour. You can afford it.
I'll buy the first round. How's that?
Yeah, pass it on to him. I think you have to sign.
Okay, item 19.
Okay, so
All right, 19 arbitrage report. So we've got those on the Google Drive. There, one of the reports did indicate that an amount was due. It was the total amount.
Find something, the checks that are ready to be signed isn't over.
And this is for earning interest in excess of what's allowed. What we talk about is the arbitrage payment when the amount that we can earn on bonds exceeds the amount of the interest on the bond issue itself, which we are starting to see now with districts that issued bonds back in the,
COVID era.
the COVID era, 2021 or so. You're starting to see those pop up where you've got interest earned higher than what the bond issues was. So we do need to approve the payment of that rebate to the IRS.
discussion. Motion to approve. Do I need a motion or just the
Motion.
motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second it.
Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. General managers report.
All right, general manager report starts on 102. Just wanted to point out a couple things. On 104, you have a lot of examples of the type of work that the ditch crews have been doing. We've been doing some significant ditch work across the Woodlands. You can see some of this piping and backslope interceptor swales, as well as some desilting of concrete aprons in the ditches. So our ditch crews steady at work doing that work. So making very good progress on that. I want to point out that we ran through about 1,600 work orders across the Woodlands. Pretty busy. It's pretty typical, but I haven't ever usually pointed out that number and just so you can see all that we're doing. Also wanted to make note that Marine has worked for WWA/JPA for 28 years.
Wow.
Back in March. So We really appreciate all of those.
We have child welfare laws now.
That's right. As you've seen in the past, I like to include thank yous that we received from residents, so there's some of those in there. And you don't have any questions of me of the report, I'll pass it on to John for a communication summary.
If we talk, we have a mud 46 line here. How do you tell where these ditches are? Ditch 6B double knot dash double knot. How do you, where's the magic decoder ring for that?
Our GIS system.
GIS system, okay.
We have a map that identifies where all those ditches are and what ditch. We're actually creating we built a spreadsheet that helps us track all those level threes or the ones that the boards approved to be done in this fiscal year. And what we plan to do is present that to the boards so you can kind of see all the work that's been done. And then it also shows what's been completed, what's in action, and what's to be done.
So this is the update of the red, yellow, and green.
Basically, well, just of the red.
Red, okay.
Now going forward, that's exactly what we're gonna do now that we have the database built, is every year we're gonna go through and look at the greens, yellows, and oranges and say, okay, have they become red? Which will identify future budget line items if necessary, or to say, nope, we got a few more years on this. We'll continue to look at that year after year. Right now, we're just authorized to do the red, which was basically, deteriorated pipes with holes in them, big sinkholes, siltation, vegetative clearback on the ditches for access. That's what's being focused on right now, which is what's been approved by the boards.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question on this 115.
That's what he's gonna cover.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, I'll make this real quick and of course answer your questions. You got your communication report on 114. Just a couple quick points about 115, which are the community survey results. First off, you can see the full survey and results by scanning that QR code at the bottom. This is just a portion of the survey that I brought forward for tonight. And so I encourage you to go there, look at all that, and please reach me with any questions you might have about that. And it sounds like, Fred, you've got one.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I learned from Eric that we have 33,000 customers. I did an AI search and I got a number a little bit high, well, what was a little bit, 50% higher. Of the 33,000 customers that we have, what number have responded to these surveys? I know it's been increasing over time.
Actually, it's pretty level with past surveys. We had 840 respondents this round. That's pretty much on par with previous surveys.
What's the marketing agency's input to you to get a greater level of awareness and participation by the residents in the community?
In the survey specifically?
Yeah, well, in a survey and also responsive to the information that you're distributing. I think you're doing an excellent job, and they are too. I mean, I can't critique anything. I think it's just wonderful. And of course, the results that you publish here, but it's much like our elections. We've got about a 95% of registered voters who don't participate in the elections for board members. Kind of embarrassing. I wouldn't call it a mandate. I wouldn't even call it close to a tsunami. I call it a trickle. Okay. What thoughts do they and you have to get more community participation? Because as we go forward and the new board goes forward, talking about higher rates, higher taxes, whatever the balance is, I've got a concern it's going to shock a lot of people into participation that would be more negative than positive. And I think that basically all of doing a great job, but I'm not so sure that the community knows about it. Even though you're doing wonderful communications, what are they suggesting to improve things?
Right. So it's a multi-pronged approach,
Yeah.
for sure. And it is a challenge, as we all know. In our own lives, we have a vast array of communication streams coming at us, and we tend to lock in to certain ones. And so fighting through that, and again, just, expanding how we're reaching out. So the biggest one being evolving our social media. we've taken some really big steps in the last couple of years, adding platforms and really doing a lot more to increase reach and engagement. We have a lot more work to do on that
I know
front.
you've got a speakers program. Do you do an outreach to churches and to other organizations, including the Chamber of Commerce? I know you've had an interview with the new president and all of that, but
Yes, Eric participates in that. I was just with Alden Bridge Village Association last night. I'll be
Fantastic.
meeting with more village associations in the next couple of weeks as part of the regular procedure. A lot of in-person outreach events. We'll be at Sterling Ridge next month. You know, you have that outreach calendar that I include every month, so you can see where we're at. So getting out in person, getting out to different community groups. We have that speakers bureau now. You know, and then
Also identifying where people get their information. So one of the other things that we've noticed is the majority of the respondents in this particular survey, a large majority were above 70 years old. And so,
old people.
well, however you want to classify that, but recognizing that the younger generation, that was one of the reasons why we made the move to hire the social media expert at the beginning of this year. And those numbers have ramped up significantly in terms of touch points, trying to get to a wider diversity of age groups and folks that get their information, not only from, let's say, an email or the newspaper or the weekly versus social media, Facebook, Instagram, you know, all those different platforms. So what we recognize is that we're going to have to diversify that messaging across all those different platforms to get a greater.
Have you considered going to both public and private schools and doing presentations there where the students go back to their parents and say, hey, we just learned this and
We're actually doing it.
We're
you
piloting
are
it.
fantastic.
Yep, we're starting that. We've been working on that for about a year and a half, and it just came to fruition, and the presentations are going to be coming.
Yeah, our first pilot's happening in Tough Elementary right now,
Super,
and we look to expand that in the fall.
wonderful. Good work. Keep it up.
Work to do.
Anything else on the trustee report?
I do have a question for you, Eric.
Thank you.
Well, I don't have a page. You stated that you want to increase the surface water capacity by up to 1 million gallons a day.
Right.
And have you quantified the change in the monthly bill?
That's 3 cents.
Is it 3 cents? Okay. Not much at all. You also stated that there were a number of entities that were requesting the increase. Could you be more specific? Which entities requested the increase?
There's quite a few entities east of 45 that are
88, 89.
94, Spring Creek Utility District. That's what we've been receiving at the GRP meetings.
Okay.
So those entities, Mid-South had jumped back in. They had gotten out a couple of years ago because of a situation with their plant. So there's been a number of different entities that have been asking for. Conroe was a big one, obviously, earlier this year. That was a huge one.
Okay.
So a lot of different entities. And I was recognizing that the GRP's ability to say yes is shrinking.
Okay. So I'm just wondering, do you assign that increase in capacity to different MUDs based on the SFDUEs that they want?
It's all based on how much your customers versus another MUDs use.
And the southern MUDs, they don't have the pipeline connection yet, so they have to build
That's right.
they have to build a connection. The new ones have to build connections.
Yeah, those numbers I've just mentioned.
Yeah, 88,
They
89.
don't have a line to accept it yet.
Okay, that's all I have.
The only other thing I was going to answer your question, David, was that we hadn't talked about tonight already was trust, and it's in your packet there in the trustee summary, but the trustees did talk about what MUDs 1 and 6 are doing, possibly 36 at looking to consolidate themselves.
They're trying to take money away from you.
That's what they're going.
That was the only other thing.
Okay, so nothing for closed session? No? Then anything for next month's agenda?
See you directors.
I think new director.
New director. Anything else? You'll get that automatically on there. Get the packets.
Yeah, that'll all be.
Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
A second?
Aye.